Hey people, Hasbo here, and following on from my recent Prairie Fire video, I wanted to talk about Global Mobilization and give it a fair shout. But before we take a look at exactly what's on offer, I wanted to ask the question, did these guys get a raw deal? Well, in my opinion, as this was Bohemia's first tentative steps into the world of Creator DLC, the developers of Global Mobilization, I think they really had a tough gig before it even released. Why? Well, think of it. The two most obvious concerns within the ArmA community at that time were, firstly, the Creator DLC splitting the community. Even with Steam Workshop compatibility patches, non-owners wouldn't be able to play on the new terrain. And even if the mission took place on a vanilla or modded terrain, for instance, the assets would just be for show. You wouldn't be able to use them. So it'd force a mission maker to either make two versions of that mission for the multiplayer, or having mods loaded with alternative assets for non-owners to use, which kind of defeats the point, right? And secondly, the argument mods could do the same job and for free. But personally, I don't think it's just that. I think we as players, we all had our very own expectations of what content is worthy of a DLC and how much of that content should be included within said DLC. It was foreign territory for all parties involved, and I think Global Mobilization at release kind of seemed like Bohemia dipping toes and testing the water. So I think whatever Creator DLC came first, it was gonna have a really tough time. Probably the next major thing was the actual theme of the Creator DLC. I mean, Cold War, awesome, but I think because it wasn't US/NATO against Russia, did people just tune out? I'm going to be honest here and hold my hands up, this is what I did. And I think to myself, how many others skipped past this and thought, nah, not for me, just because it was, East Germany versus West Germany. Maybe the problem was that it just was a bit too niche for people. Now, when this first released, it was hit with very mixed reviews, some warranted and some not so. Some people labelled it as buggy. Yeah, there were some bugs from what I've read, but some of it sounds like, typical ArmA stuff. You all know what I'm talking about, like engine legacy bugs such as pathing near bridges and the like. Granted though, some were down to the team and are mission or asset specific, but that is the nature of the game, pardon the pun. You're always gonna get some bugs. From what I've seen before even buying the DLC, was a conscious effort from the developers releasing updates post-release, fixing bugs, glitches, and they've even expanded the content, which is great to see. Admittedly though, there is still some bugs in there, but the current version 1.3 is a great improvement over the initial release. There were also complaints about the terrain itself, saying the forests were bare. Well, guys and girls, that is quite accurate. The terrain has a lot of pine forest, and pine forest isn't really known for being thick bush. Some even commented it was flat and boring. Well, generally in real life it is a flat piece of terrain. And on the surface, yeah, it looks flat and barren, but you'll see later in the video there's so many subtle changes in elevation and a lot of micro terrain, and it creates some really interesting firefights, so please don't let that put you off. Anyway, you all have your own opinions on this. I think Creator DLC is a very divisive topic from what I've encountered so far, but it would be interesting to hear your thoughts, so please do comment below, let me know what you think. Right, onto the DLC itself. Apologies in advance because I may mispronounce some things and I'll probably do it horribly so, but I will give it a go for you. Global Mobilization explores a Cold War conflict between Soviet-backed East German forces that have advanced into West Germany. Its campaign, State Scarlet, places you into the shoes of a Private Klemmer, a West German infantry draftee, and it also places you into a turret of a tank platoon leader, Sergeant Brandt. This all takes place on a terrain called Weferlingen, located in the northern plains of Germany. Weferlingen offers the largest ArmA terrain released so far, 419 square kilometers of usable area. It's modelled after a real-world location in 1983. It depicts parts of both West and East German territory, and it's divided by a fortified border wall dividing the two nations. Now what I like about this terrain is the fact that it's made with all new assets. You'll be very hard pressed to find any rehashed Altis or Chernara stuff here. The buildings included are all enterable, and some of the structures have quite extensive interiors. The one thing I hated about Livonia or Altis is that some of the buildings gave this illusion where it looked like it was enterable, but you'd go in and there would only be one room or a hallway with loads of locked doors. And I know ArmA's CQB isn't that great, but it's fantastic that we have the option for full-blown urban warfare if we want it. The free workshop compatibility patch includes these assets, and they are criminally underused. This is of course due to the fact that it comes bundled with all the other showcase assets, so the download size has put a lot of people off, I reckon. It's a great shame they haven't actually released the terrain assets separately, because I'm pretty sure they'd see plenty of use. Another thing I really loved about this terrain, believe it or not, was the fences. Yes, that's right, I got excited about fences. I just love the fact that you're actually able to destroy individual panels on these fences. It's not a huge thing, but it's a very nice little detail compared to other terrains. You know, seeing your cover blown up bit by bit as you scramble to find something more, hard cover. It really adds something else to that infantry experience. Talking of the infantry experience, this plays a lot differently from Arma 3's typical offerings. In fact, it reminded me a lot of its ancestor, Operation Flashpoint. Your movements are a lot more deliberate and careful, due to the fact you have no armour, and you'll also have to settle down for your shots a lot more, as you'll be using good old-fashioned iron sights for the majority of your playthrough. You will die a lot, and I mean a lot at first, but after a while you'll play it differently. You'll start using fences or low walls, and there'll be a lot more pop-up shoot and then scoot kind of gameplay. You'll also make mad dashes to any buildings nearby to take advantage of all those pretty nice new interiors. It's a really hard adjustment to make at first. You know, being so used to those RCO scopes and the like, it really took my eyes a good while to adjust. But by god, that rear sight backplate of the G3 is really annoying, and you'll see what I mean, it just gets in the way so much. But apart from that, I really enjoyed it. Moving swiftly on to the weapons and vehicles, well, there's plenty on offer here, spread across 5 factions. Yes, that's right, 5. You get East and West Germany, Poland, Denmark, and of course the, appropriate civilian assets. So you have 39 new weapon and weapon variants, 80 vehicle and vehicle variants, countless uniforms in summer and winter variants, and lots of time appropriate equipment to complement all your loadouts. And what's more, they are incredibly well detailed. Mad props to the developers here, they did a fantastic job. The campaign, well, I'm only a few missions in. It has neat little touches like animated briefings, but it doesn't try and break any boundaries and plays it safe for the most part. It does, however, have some issues with waypoints, it seems, and most of your squad mates are seemingly invincible as a kind of nod of acknowledgement to these issues. Some of it can be down to armour, the typical armour stuff, but I have a feeling that a couple more fixes are needed here and there. As I said, you will die a lot, as you adjust to the different feel of combat. With that being said, I think this DLC would be quite tough on a newer player of the franchise, and I would recommend those newer players start out with Vanilla's single player offerings first off. There is a cool little one-off single player scenario you can play as well. The name escapes me at the moment, but it pits you lost behind enemy lines with the objective of reaching friendly lines. There's a cool little mechanic where you can hold up civilians in their vehicles, kind of GTA style, so that was a cool little mission. There is also a good number of co-op scenarios, 17 in fact. I've not played these personally yet, but I've heard absolutely great things about them. So yeah, I will give them a go in future. Well, I could go a bit more in depth, but I think there's plenty of in-depth looks already out there on YouTube. And I really wanted to keep this more of a brief overview. So you're probably wondering, at this point, is it worth buying? Well, if you're interested in the Cold War timeframe and it playing out with German forces, then yes, it's a solid purchase, especially since the 1.3 update. I think since the 1.3 update, I think it actually justifies the recommended retail price a lot better than the initial release did. However, If you were after a more stereotypical view of East versus West, or actually on the fence, then it's probably not going to match up to your personal expectations. That being said, if it goes on sale, which I believe it has done in the past, up to 50% if I remember correctly, then it is, highly recommended that you actually pick it up and give it a go. If you have the time, actually download the compatibility patch. You'll get a preview of most of the stuff in the virtual arsenal, and you'll really see the workmanship on display. Whatever your thoughts are, you can't really deny the quality of the assets produced here. Anywho, I think that's me just about done now, so hit a like if you've enjoyed the video and let me know your thoughts below. And consider subscribing for the ever increasing variety of content for ArmA Free and more. Thanks very much guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!